testing this audio room. So if anyone is here, welcome, welcome. I am your host, Lindsey Stirling. And we're just making sure. Oh, we do have some listeners here. We got some of our friends. Welcome, everybody. Wow, so many friends. Hey, what's up, guys? I'm Lindsey, and I am just prepping for tomorrow's interview. So yeah, we're waiting for Amanda to join, and I don't know if you guys are aware, but tomorrow I'm going to have a really awesome conversation with Amanda Kloots, and we're going to be discussing a really heartfelt topic for both of us. We're going to be talking about loss and dealing with loss in our own lives and moving forward past it while still keeping those people a part of our lives that we've lost. So, oh, it looks like Amanda is joining right now. So yeah, I am very excited. So that's going to be tomorrow at 1 o'clock PST, so 1 o'clock Pacific time. So I hope you guys will join us. Let me see if I can. Oh, maybe I invite her to speak. Sorry, guys. I'm still learning how to do this. This is really fun. I'm still learning how to run this whole thing and be a host. I feel like I'm all grown up being a host in these. Let's see. Trying to figure out how to get Amanda to speak. But anyways, she'll be joining soon. Again, this is just a test because I'm really excited for our conversation tomorrow. So please be sure to join us at 1 o'clock Pacific time. And okay, they're telling me. So I'm trying to add Amanda. I'm tapping her icon. Do I have to hold it? Sorry, guys. So I am just letting the tech people know that I have tapped the icon. I've clicked on her picture and I've invited her to speak and nothing's happening. If you can see right here, everybody. So hold on, everybody. Don't mind me while I deal with these technical difficulties. This is why we have a test the prior day. So does someone want to talk to me on the tech side and tell me what to do? Yeah, I can hear you, Robert. I am hearing you. Yeah, so Amanda's still here. And then I say invite to speak. Yeah, so I was tapping that and then nothing happens. So I don't know if anybody. Oh, maybe Amanda jumped off. Oh. Okay, everybody. By the way, thanks for hanging out. There's like over 800 of you guys just hanging with me while I'm just trying to figure out what to do. But I guess I'll let you guys know. I am currently in the middle of my US tour. I'm home for a brief second. I came back to perform on America's Got Talent yesterday, which was really, really fun. And let's see. So they're telling, sorry, I'm like talking to you guys, but I'm also having to look at this chat as they tell me what to do. Okay. Okay. All right, everybody. I'm going to have to try to start a new room to test this out. So I'm going to exit the room. I'm going to start another room. Hold, please. Hello? Hello, hello.
Hello, we're just waiting for Lindsey to join.
All right, awesome. Hey, everybody. Okay. All right.
Woohoo!
Amanda, are you in here?
Oh my gosh, we got it.
Wow, this has been quite a process, everybody. Thank you for joining. And oh my gosh, Amanda, thanks for being so incredibly patient as we all tried to figure out how to, deal with technology.
Exactly, my daily struggle.
I know,
But
seriously, when they were we did it. We did it. And there's a whole team of people that had to help us learn how to work Facebook. I feel great. Well, hey everybody, welcome. Today I have Amanda Kloots here with me, and I'm really, really excited for our conversation today. And if anybody happens to not be aware of Amanda, I think as soon as I introduce her, you'll remember her story, because we got to watch, like the entire world got to watch you go through one of the hardest experiences anyone could ever go through, which is losing a loved one. And your husband, Nick Cordero, was one of the first, public figures that caught COVID and passed away from it. And so Amanda and I are both going to be talking today about experiencing a significant loss and how we went through our own versions of this experience, and how, and I'm really excited to hear about Amanda's story of learning to thrive through life in spite of that experience. So welcome, Amanda.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. I really, really appreciate this chat. And, it's so, I just think it's so important to talk about these things, about loss and grief and that journey, because it's so taboo still. And it really helps people to listen and to learn and to talk to other people that have gone through this kind of trauma.
Absolutely. And I feel like because it's kind of taboo, and until you've gone through something like that, people want to help, but they don't know how to help. They don't know what the appropriate things to say are. And so sometimes people will just completely avoid the topic or avoid the people that go through these things, because they just don't know what the right way to approach someone is, and they don't want to make it worse, and they don't want to. So do you have any thoughts for those who maybe know someone who's lost a loved one on how to help someone going through loss?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of an interesting thing, because I even find myself, since losing Nick and then being around people that I know or don't know, and trying to find the right words even to say that to them. You think, gosh, I've been through this. I should know exactly what to say. I should be the expert. I should know exactly what to do. And I think the reason why we don't necessarily is because everybody handles going through this process differently. There is no road that you get on and follow that everybody follows. It is this roller coaster ride that only you can take yourself, and everyone needs something different and at different times. So I think that, though, the best piece of advice I can give is that just be and show up as who you are to that person. If you are, and these are not my words, this is something I learned from the incredible Rabbi Steve Leder. He said, just show up as your authentic self. If you're a baker, bake. If you're a hugger, hug. If you're a jokester, still joke. Because the thing is to the person going through grief and loss, you already feel like everything is turned upside down. So then when your best friend or your mom or your neighbor or your friend show up and act completely different, then you really feel like the bottom is dropped out. So that's kind of the best piece of advice I can give.
That's a good point. We love the people we love, and we have the people in our lives because we love them the way they are. And, feeling like you have to change in order to be what you think someone needs. You bring up such a good point that no one knows what anybody needs, because everybody does have their own way of dealing with it, and everybody's story is different. And, and one of my really good friends, very wise friend, she told me once, she's like, empathy isn't created by similar experiences. It's created by similar emotions. That's what empathy is. And a lot of times I feel like we think we cannot relate to someone because it's like, well, I didn't, have someone in the hospital for months and have to be separated from them, so I can't understand what that feels like. But it's like, but I've felt helpless before, or I've lost I've lost my own important things in my life before. And we've all experienced life in some way, shape, or form. Whether it's loss of a loved one, loss of a relationship, like a really hard breakup, loss of a dream. You know, loss is like a pretty significant part of our lives, everybody. And so I think this is, you know, whether the people in this chat or this room can relate to losing a loved one, like the things that you share in your book and the things you talk about is something that everybody can learn from. And by the way, I read your whole book last night.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. I was like, I want to be prepared for this. And I just want to say it was beautiful. And I know you wrote it with your sister as well. I'm curious what that experience was like to write it with your sister.
I feel like the luckiest person ever to be able to write this book with her. She's an incredible writer and was with Nick and I throughout this whole journey. But then she was always kind of like a part of our relationship even before, you know, everything that happened with Nick. So she knew us separately, she knew us together, and then she saw me through these 95 days. And you know, it was such a blessing to be able to do this with her. It brought us even more closer, if that's even possible. And you know, she could write exactly like I would just tell her something, and but she would write it the way I would speak it. So it was like, it was beautiful. I'm very, very, very lucky to have had Anna a part of this book.
Yes. And it was really special. I could feel your guys' relationship through the words of the book. And it brought back some really nice memories for me, because years ago I wrote a book as well, and my sister penned the actual words for me. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
And so I had a very similar experience where we would sit there and talk about stories and like memories, and she would then put them into very well written text that I don't have the skill to do. And so anyways, it was cool to see your sister's relationship with you, and it kind of brought back some memories for me too.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So I think my favorite thing about your book was there was so much well, you talked a lot about your faith, and I'm curious, how did prayer help you through this process, or how did your faith guide you through all of this?
I mean, tremendously. I've never felt closer to God throughout that time. I mean, I was praying like I have never prayed before in my entire life. You know, I always pray, but like I never felt like I was like a good prayer. You know, I just like hit the basics and you know,
Uh-huh.
kind of thing. And yeah, I was saying prayers at the hospital that I honestly just didn't even know how these words were coming out of my mouth. It was just felt like almost like divine intervention. I felt very, very, very close to God throughout that time. It was almost, you know, like Nick, God, and I were in like a little like group or something. And then, you know, it literally also felt like every time I would ask on Instagram for people to pray for Nick, and I could feel it in a weird way. It's like I could feel it. I could feel the like almost blanket on us, you know, like the security and the help and the hope every day from just reaching out and asking for prayer.
Yes, you know, I'm like, I dabble between somewhere between like religious, spiritual, and even a little bit like hippie in my beliefs sometimes. Like I believe so strongly in energy and in its connection with spirituality. And, you know, there are spiritual healers that will send energy to those that are sick. And you talked about that a little bit as well. And I think there's something to that. Like there is a power in sending prayer and sending love to someone, and it's really cool to hear you talk about it, that you've tangibly could feel like the presence of love being sent to you and Nick.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's definitely something I never scoffed at before all of this, but now I'm like such a believer in all of it.
Yeah, and it's because you, like, I love it, you literally felt it. And you know, some people that could really disrupt their faith, and I am curious because you did all this praying and you felt closer to God than you've ever felt, and yet you didn't get the answer that you wanted. And so was that something that was hard for your faith, or was it something that you were prepped for because of all the, you know, the prayers that you had been giving?
No, it was absolutely hard. I felt like there were a lot of days where, we were getting bad news after bad news, and I would, cry to my parents saying, I don't understand. Like I have the whole world praying for Nick. I have atheists DMing me saying, I've never prayed before in my entire
Mm.
life, and I'm down on my knees praying for your husband. I'm like, it says in the Bible, where two or more come in my name, and like God is not hearing this prayer and I don't understand. And I was like very, very frustrated, and battling that on a daily basis. But
Yeah.
for me, I was raised Lutheran, and now I'm sort of just non-denominational. But I was raised in my church to question God and to ask him things, and question, all of the parts about religion that seem, you know, unbelievable, or, crazy, if you want to say that word. And so I was never afraid to tell God I was mad, or that like I
Mm.
didn't understand, or express that anger to my mom and dad, especially, and not feel like they were going to judge me for saying like I'm really mad at God right now. Um and in a weird way, towards the end, when Nick, especially the last day when he was passing, um you know it was in a weird way peaceful. Like I could tell that Nick was going, in a good place, that it was like a peaceful moment. There wasn't anything I needed to be mad about. Definitely sad, and of course, frustrated that I more so felt like I had lost, a battle, like I had lost
Yeah.
a war that I was fighting. But that's just me. That was like my feelings on me. But I had come to peace with the God part of it.
Wow, that's really beautiful. And I had a similar experience. I remember, in the cases that I experienced loss, they were both very different. Both the times I lost someone, one was my best friend, and then about a year later, I lost my dad. And I just remember those prayers. And I love that you said it's okay to express to God that you're upset and that
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're not happy with the answer you're getting. And that doesn't mean you don't have faith. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It means that you're actually, like, the same way if you wanted an answer from a friend that you didn't agree with, or
Yeah.
you didn't respect what they had done, like, you would go to them if they were a true friend. And
Right.
I think that just shows so much about your faith and where you were at, that you would take that to God and say, I'm so disappointed. I'm so upset. Why is this the answer? And I think that's probably why you finally found peace in it, and you were gifted that answer. Because I wrote a song after my dad passed away, and it was the lyrics were, where do we go when our prayers are answered, but the answer is no.
Mm.
And and sometimes the answer will eventually come to you as something, like you said, that you really don't expect, but you can't fight that feeling of the peace that says, oh my gosh, this is okay, he's okay, and I'm going to be okay. And I want you to actually, if you're comfortable, to share the experience of when he, like, those last moments with Nick. It was
Mm-hmm.
so beautiful the way you shared it. It made me tear up when I read it. So I would love for you to share that with the people listening.
Yeah, it was July 5th. We had kind of known all of July 4th that we kind of had to make a decision to take him off all the machines that he was on. And Leslie, Nick's mother, and I were having, obviously a hard time with that decision. But
Mm-hmm.
we ended up, you know, doing that way because we just felt like we didn't want to get a phone call at 2 a.m. and he had gone, and passed away by himself. We just
Yeah.
wanted to be there with him. So we, very early in the morning on the 5th, my family got to be there, and we were FaceTiming with Nick's family. And um, we just, they slowly start taking the patient off of the machines, kind of like one by one. And ironically, I had put on just kind of like a mix. Like I put on Our House, but then it goes the song Our House by Crosby, Stills and Nash. And then it went into like just like a 70s, 60s, 70s like music, you know, like a Pandora, like a, you know, station
Mm-hmm.
on Spotify, and you know, songs were playing, and it was as if Nick was the DJ of his final moments of his life, which is not ironic if you, when you read the book, you know this. And if you knew him, he would DJ his last 5 moments of his life, and 5 minutes of his life. And so the first song that came on was Nights in White Satin, which is ironically a song that literally just says, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, over and over and over again. And as I'm crying over him, and I was pretty hysterical, because it's like the moment that you don't want to admit is happening, as they're giving him morphine so that he doesn't feel things. And so I said to my dad, I was like, what is this song? And he told me what it was, because I knew in my head I wanted to document what it was. And then after that song is over, the song by the Youngbloods, Get Together, comes on, which is a beautiful song that, if you know, the chorus is, you know, come on people, now smile on your brother, everybody come together, try to love one another right now. Which is, again, if you knew Nick, it was like, that's kind of like his, it could be his mantra. I mean, it was, smile on your brother, come on everybody's, like, try to love one another right now. So like my whole family's there, and Nick's, you know, brother and sister over FaceTime, and Leslie, and we're all just holding hands, and we're crying, and we're singing this to Nick as more machines are being turned off. And then there was a kind of like good long hour that went by where his body wasn't giving up yet, and he was laying there, and we were just continuing to sob and watch these machines that were still left, which is basically just the ventilator. And they came in and said, you know, we got to take away the ventilator now. And when that happens, it's like within moments that your person leaves because they can't breathe. And so they took him off the ventilator, and then this Led Zeppelin song came on, Going to California, which, I mean, as soon as that song started playing, I said to my dad again, Dad, what is this song? Because I wanted to mentally, you know, note it so that I could go back and really research the song and the lyrics. And it's this song that Led Zeppelin sang. It's sung like a monologue, written like a monologue, basically about wanting to go to California to start a new life. And sorry, like that's all Nick wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so it was just so ironic that that was the last song that was playing when he took his last breath.
Yeah.
And he was a huge Led Zeppelin fan. When I was going through all of his vinyl records after he passed, I found that record that has Going to California, and many other Led Zeppelin records. And you know, it just was so crazy. It was as if he was DJing his last moments of his life. He really was.
Yeah. It's so beautiful for you to like share that moment, because it sounds like it was, you know, probably the hardest moment you've ever been through, but at the same time, very like you were connected to him, you were connected to your family. And when I was reading that part of the book, it took me back to my last moments with my dad, as me and my sisters and my mom, we all sat around him, and we were just waiting, you know, like you said, for those last breaths to happen. And we didn't know if he could hear us, and we were just sitting there in silence. And then all of a sudden, one of my sisters looked up, and she goes, let's tell memories of Dad. Like, let's all talk about our favorite memories. And, you know, before we knew it, we were laughing and crying. And it was like this change happened in me, because I was pretty bitter and I was pretty angry at God for what he had, you know, what had happened to my dad. Like, the body is so resilient.
Yeah.
And it wants to survive so bad. And we had watched my dad for a year and a half just like become someone that he wasn't. And, you know, like looking at him, it was like, this isn't my father, and it hasn't been for a long time. And like, how could this have happened to such a good man that had so much faith, that prayed so much? And it was like in that moment, as we all shared these memories, I felt this beautiful warmth of love, almost like a hug from my dad. And in that
Wow.
moment, my bitterness like kind of melted away. And I was so, sorry, so grateful for what I had rather than focusing on what I had lost. And, you know, it sounds like in your way, you experienced kind of a very similar moment. And I just, you know, those last few moments with people, I think the difference between this life and the next becomes very, very thin. And
Yes.
you know, you can feel both sides. Like you said, Nick was DJing his last moments with you, and you know, he was right there. And you know, my dad, it was like he's literally giving me a hug saying, hey, I'm gonna be okay, and my faith wasn't wasted. Like your
Yeah.
faith isn't wasted. And so that's a really beautiful thing. So thank you so much for sharing such a personal experience with us.
Oh, sure.
um you know, how about how do you feel that death connects people? Because I do feel like there's something very interesting about losing someone
Yeah.
that like connects everybody else.
Yeah, it's so true. I've found a lot of help actually with through connecting with other widows and widowers, in talking with them and hearing their stories and kind of just like communicating. And literally, I'm just like sliding into people's DMs, being like, "Hey, I think we should be friends."
Yeah.
And then we end up starting to chat and talk and share our stories, and it's like the connection over loss and that trauma is so deep. It like immediately connects you. It makes you feel like you've known this person, um, forever, when you literally have just started to talk to them.
Right.
And that is beautiful. It's very human. It's like on a deep, very deep, cutting through all the bullshit, honest, um honest talk. And I don't know, for me personally, and I can say to anyone else I know that I've spoken to about loss, it's like when you go through something this heavy, it just changes you in that way, that like immediately there's just kind of no filter, because
Mm-hmm.
you're just kind of like, there's no time, because there's no time to waste on it. It's like, we deserve to live a life that's open and honest and free and real and meaningful. And
Yeah. Oh, I think you might have gotten
um
muted. Oh, there you go.
you, oh, okay, sorry. It's just like a freedom that you get from this, which is in a way, very nice. It's a nice gift.
That's a really good point to say that it's like a freedom. It's that you're given because I think it gives you this like very huge perspective. Like it's like the lens is blown way out and suddenly, you know, you see kind of, wow, there's a beginning and there is an end, and what is the point of everything, you know, because
Yeah.
suddenly this lens that's so usually microscopic and we focus on like the events of today and what I am not accomplishing or what I look like these tiny micro events. And I think it is freeing to like draw it way out and be like, wow, the big picture makes everything seem, you know, I don't know, points out what's important and what's not and how we do
Yeah.
connect. And, you know, COVID, so many people lost so much. But what did, I feel like your loss and kind of seeing the reaction of the world to your loss, like, what did that teach you kind of about humanity in general or even your relationship with the world?
mm. I feel like, um I think COVID, helped everybody in a way. I mean, there's, you have to find silver linings in everything. And I think that it all helped everybody to kind of take themselves down off their podium.
Mm-hmm.
And we all were, for once in our lives, whether you were the biggest Hollywood movie star or just, a regular Joe living in, Montana, we were all doing the same thing, and we all
Yeah.
lost our jobs, and we all had to stay home, and we all had a fear, and we all were, you know all of a sudden realizing that who's important in life, what's important in life, because it's that important right now. And
Yeah.
and I think that that's such a nice takeaway that I'm going to say has forever changed me, and I hope it's forever changed to everybody, because it was such our reality. And I think that we can't forget how scary those first couple weeks were, how scary those first couple months were. And I think it was a time that I did see the greatest goodness of humanity,
Mm,
because for the first time in a long time, humanity was all on the same page. And
yeah.
I think that was a blessing.
Yeah, and I feel like you said it so well somewhere where you spoke about how, we were all isolated, yet I don't think the world has ever been so united, and
Yeah.
everybody was wanting in some way, but like never have people been so generous and
Yeah.
giving. So it's almost like interesting how the opposite, experiencing the opposite made us even more willing to like search out what we want and what we need, because it was like highlighted by the opposite.
Yeah, it was extremes, right? Like
Right.
we went into this crazy extreme so quickly. Like our lives went like on a huge turn, extreme turn. So I feel like then you saw the extreme on the other end, which was people going live on Instagram and giving free workout classes or free cooking
Mm-hmm.
classes, or giving neighbors groceries, taking care of the elderly. Like, I mean, just doing things that you would not normally see people do so freely, because we all had the time, but because also we were all trying to take care of each other, because we all knew that that's all that we had at the
Yeah.
time. And it, like that's it's beautiful.
Absolutely. You seem like such a hope-driven person,
Mm.
and like that just seems to be the perspective that you've chosen to view life through. And I say chosen because I really think it's a choice. It's not like you were born like optimistic and hopeful. I really feel like you've probably just consistently made choices in your life that have brought you to this perspective of looking for hope all the time. So when you had moments that made you, like you said before, like they maybe hurt your faith a little bit, or you got upset or angry, like how did you bounce back to this hopeful side of yourself?
Well, for Nick's journey personally, it was that the ICU is truly a roller coaster ride. And in 20 minutes, you can get an amazing phone call that gives you all the hope in the world. And then in 20 minutes later, you get a phone call that you think is like, wait, what just happened? And you're telling me he's gonna live for another hour and that's it. So it's like,
Mm.
there's that hopefulness that goes in and out. um Obviously the huge social media army was like a whole nother hopeful. I had like people all over the world every day telling me to not give up, don't give up, he's gonna make it, you can do this. It was like this army of support every single day, which obviously helped keep me hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
And now I would say what keeps me hopeful is that I know that Nick would want me to live. He would want me to thrive. He would want me to grow. He would want me to evolve. He would want me to be the best mother I could possibly be. He would want me to be the best person I could possibly be. And if I want to try to honor his life and his legacy and his name and him as a husband and a person and a father, that's what I have to do. So that keeps me hopeful.
Yeah. And I'm sure that was really hard, like after like you said before, you felt kind of like, wow, I lost this battle. And for all of that time that he was in the hospital, that was your purpose, like was
Yes.
taking
Yeah.
care of Elvis and going to the hospital and researching, and like
Yes.
that's what you spent all your energy, every waking moment, every thought,
Yeah.
like investing into. And so I'm sure, like, how did you find that new purpose after it was like, oh my gosh, this is over, like I just cleaned up his hospital room and took down like what do I do
Yeah.
now?
Yeah. Well, I will say that a part of me, it was writing this book because
Mm.
I you know, when Nick passed away, I went back to Ohio with my mom and dad to just kind of veg out and just have some time in Ohio. And that's when I started writing, and that gave me a purpose. I had a
Hmm.
deadline, and so that
Yeah.
always helps too. But um, writing made me feel so good. Like it was hard. It was beyond hard, and I would sob
Right.
every night. But it was helping me. I knew that it was helping me. So that was that was good. It was like this really, really kind of like good purpose. And then on the other end of it, in writing this book, I realized unknowingly that the last 19 years of my life performing on Broadway, going in and out of shows, getting told no
Mm.
time and time and time again, over and over and over again, doing a show, having it unexpectedly close, being back on unemployment, no job, no money, no insurance. That was 19 years of my life.
Wow.
And I, in writing this story, realized that the day Nick died and I packed up his hospital room and I left feeling like I had lost was very, very similar to when I would get told my Broadway show was closing and that I was losing my job and that I had to pack up my dressing room and go back and have nothing again and have to
Yeah.
start over again and have to find a new job again. And I didn't know, and I didn't realize until I was writing that those years prepared me for this now, this resilience of, okay, I've lost again and I have to go through the process again of reinventing myself and starting over. And I know that there is another side, that there I have to get through. You know, my big thing is you just have to get through these dark times. As long as I can keep moving forward, I get through them. And so I kind of realized that, you know, I just have to get through.
Yes, I think that's so important. And I feel like people ask all the time, like, how do you get over, how do you get through loss, or how do I get through grief? And I think the fact that you went straight into a project, especially a project that was very cathartic, like getting
Yeah.
to put your experience into words. And I'm sure you had to express the same stories over and over again with your sister as you guys figured out the correct way to share it. I'm sure that was very cathartic, but also, like you said, it gave you a purpose. It was like, okay, there is something to invest into right now, because it can easily be so like displacing and feeling, it can make you feel so lost. And after my best friend died, I remember, finally what got me off the couch was just this, okay, I'm going to write about this. And I wrote about it through music and ended up
Mm.
working on a whole album around it. And so I think that is such an important thing for people to realize. And I love that you connected. It was like your Broadway show experience. It's like, wow, loss is a universal feeling, you
Yeah.
know, and it is something that connects all of us, whether you've lost a person or you've lost like a dream or whatever. It is something, and it takes the same skills of resilience to get through it. And I did think that was really beautiful, the way you just said that and the way you talked about it in your book as well. But I'm curious. You said that as he was passing away, you asked him to be your angel. And have you had any experiences or any moments that you felt that he was there, or that like he was your angel?
Oh God, yes.
You're
So
like, which
many.
one?
Yeah, so many. And you know, this is actually a beautiful side of death that I never ever thought would happen, because I've lost grandparents, but I this is obviously different for me. And I never expected to sort of have like a spiritual side of a relationship with Nick
Yeah.
when he died. And I have found a very beautiful spiritual relationship now with my husband, where I talk to him all the time, and on random occasions really, really do feel like he's right next to me or watching me or
Mm.
in the car with me. um, felt him through Elvis, and I felt his energy through Elvis, my son.
Mm-hmm.
um, I it's very, I don't want to say strange, because it's in a way not at all when it's happening to you and when you're open to it and you're feeling it. it's comforting, and it's warming and wonderful. But I'm sure it sounds strange maybe to somebody who has never experienced it, but yeah, I definitely feel like he listened to me when I asked him to be our angel.
Oh.
He was like, "Yep, got it. I'll be there day one."
He's like already planning on it. We
Yeah,
got
he's
this.
like, "Don't you worry, I'm gonna be there every day."
How, and I've always had a lot of faith and, believed that we go somewhere after we pass on, but since losing someone, and I feel like it can either weaken your faith or it can strengthen your faith.
Yeah.
And for me, just my belief in angels and like the closeness to the other side. I mean, when you start to ask these questions, like, where are they? How close can they get? You start to like look and you start to, think about it more. And I don't know, I feel like I've just been made aware of so many little tiny gifts, those little miracles that have let me know that they are my guardian angels. And I now kind of go through life with a little bit different perspective. Kind of like you said, it does change you.
Yeah.
And I just sometimes imagine myself, if I'm nervous for something or if I'm, feel like I need a little extra help, I just kind of imagine myself walking through my day with like my two powerful guardian angels at either side of me and helping me through whatever it is that I'm dealing with. And it really does give me just a little bit extra bit of confidence and security, because I'm like, it's fine. I got this. I've prepared. And I've also got my angels
Mm-hmm.
and I know they got my back.
Yeah, it's really, it's crazy because I never really expected myself to talk to him out loud and to
Mm,
ask him for help and guidance. But I do the same, Lindsay. I'm like, I'll be in the car driving somewhere or to work or something, and I'll just be like, "Honey, I need you around today. Like, I need to feel
yeah.
your presence, and like send me a sign, and I miss you like crazy, and I love you, and like I'm just letting you know I could really use you today." And I feel it. Like I'll get a sign later that day, or like I just feel like I have this extra layer of protection around me. And I get why it might be really hard for some people to do that. I understand, because like, you really have to, I think, to talk about grief and to talk about those who have lost, it's either in a weird way very easy to do for people, or it's really hard for people to do.
Mm-hmm.
But if you kind of can try to let yourself do it, and maybe it's super private at first, like instead of, with people, because I'll do it with, in both places. But
Yeah.
I think you'll find, if there's anyone listening right now that's struggling with, like, I lost my person or my parent or my friend, and I don't feel comfortable like saying their name or talking to them. I think if you kind of can try to just break that barrier down and do it, you'll find that it's really comforting. And it's what you need. You need comfort when you're going through this.
That's a really good point. It's like, that may be very natural for you and I to do because it kind of goes in line with how we've always believed.
Yeah.
But that's a really good point, that there's different levels of where people will be comfortable with. And, even writing a letter, like Amanda said, if you're not comfortable talking aloud about it, I actually even did that. I remember writing a letter to, saying all the things that I didn't get to say. And or just expressing my new hopes and dreams, like whatever it is. Sometimes writing to them can be helpful, or even if you just say it in your mind, if you're not comfortable saying it out loud.
Yeah.
um, that's a really good point. And I'm curious, what do you find is your best form of therapy? Like, as you've gone through the ups and downs of grief, because as we both know, grief really does come and go, and it's in
Yeah.
waves. And you're fine one day, and then the next you're like, oh shoot, why today? I don't know. But it's super strong. And so, what are some of your go-to modes of like, okay, I need a little extra help today. This is my therapy for today.
my I will say that it has very much been like grief, a different, thing each, couple months. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's been a wave, but the consistent through line is definitely exercise,
Mm-hmm.
100%. The minute if I don't move my body for a day or two, especially, I feel it. I feel it in my
Mm.
bones. I feel sadness taking over. I feel depression and grief setting in. And I know that if I even just go for a bike ride or a walk and just put music on and look up to the sky and feel the breeze or the sunshine and move and get oxygen flowing, it immediately is my number one life-saving grief, anxiety, stress go to for sure. I've done it since, you know, I found it through my divorce, and I was like, I knew then that this was like fitness to me was more than just staying in shape or keeping the perfect body, you know.
Yeah.
It's much more to me than that. In fact, it's all of that and not any of keeping the perfect body shape. Um, and then the second and third and like maybe fourth thing I would say I've been doing a lot of energy healing, which I found
Ooh.
very, very rewarding, working with energy healers and Reiki.
Mm-hmm.
I've been really lately finding yoga nidra meditations, guided ones, very, very helpful. It feels like an inside massage for my organs. It's like bringing me a lot of balance and quiet into my very busy, crazy, chaotic life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think those would be my top three.
No, I think it's so important for people to realize, and I feel like it's something I've learned more and more, is that therapy can come in so many different forms. Like, I don't think
Yes.
10 years ago anyone would have thought of working out as therapy,
Yeah.
or meditation even as like a form of therapy. And, you know, because therapy, just a lot of people think of it as one thing, like you're sitting down, you're talking to someone, but I do that, but my most effective forms of therapy usually aren't that. Like, for me, for some reason, reading other people's stories, like honestly, reading your book was very therapeutic for me. And
Mm.
just hearing your story and how you got through it, and, you know, hearing your message of hope, or reading self-help books, for some reason, they just kind of keep my mind in a very like positive place as I listen to other people's positivity.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to think about like what else could be therapeutic, because I that's like a new thing for me. I never would have thought of, like I said, 10 years ago. um
Yeah. I mean,
and I'm
even like a year ago, you know, when Nick
Yeah.
first died, my good friend was like, "You got to go see a therapist right now, Amanda. Like, you got to get into therapy." And I just innately knew, like, especially I learned this from going through my divorce. I know when I need help. I know when I need help, and I will
Hmm.
go when I know I need it. I will go and I will find it.
Yeah.
But you are so right. These other things that I have found um just by seeking and just literally trying anything, I have really opened myself up to trying anything. If somebody says to me, Amanda, you know, you should really try this or this or this, I always say, like, great, I'll try it once. I don't have to go back. I don't have to like it. I can even leave if I don't like it while I'm there, but
Hmm.
I will try it, because you never know what might actually click, and what you never thought might help you before this might help you now, because guess what? You are not the same person. I am not the same person. What happened to me has forever changed me, and I
Yeah.
am not the same person.
No, that's so well said. And it is interesting also to just like take notice of where you're at and what is helping, because sometimes I think we just kind of do different things, and you don't take like these mental notes to say like, oh, actually yoga made me feel really good, or
Yeah.
oh, reading books, that actually helps my mental health. Like, you know, not just listening to what the world tells you is going to help you, like, yeah, you need to go sit down in a chair and have therapy, like that maybe it's the best answer for someone else, but you know, it's also like you said, where are you at, where's your comfortability, and what is actually making you feel like your best self.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm curious because, and I was even thinking about this last night, I was like, what is it that made the world so supportive of you and Nick's, you know, fight? Because it's like there were a lot of people experiencing COVID, like the entire world was afraid of it, and people were getting it, and people were in the hospital. But why do you think your story gravitated to so many people?
I think a couple things. The first is that Nick was 41 years old with no pre-existing health conditions. And in the
Hmm.
beginning of all of this, if you take yourself back to March 2020, we were told that it affects the elderly, and
Yeah.
that if you have, respiratory issues or any kind of pre-illness, that you were more acceptable to it. So I think that that's number one. Number two, we were a young couple, just married, and we had a little baby. And I think that that was just such a, pull on your heartstrings for anyone watching the news every day. And that's what we were all doing, was watching the news every day.
Yeah.
I think the third part of it is that I was just on Instagram every day, giving like the honest update of what was happening on a day-to-day basis. And again, we all were stuck at home with nothing to do. So there were no, obligations of, oh, shoot, she went live, but I was working, or I had a Zoom, or I had, I had to go pick up the kids from soccer. It was like nobody had anything else to do other than tune in to the world and what was happening. And I think
Yeah.
then the fourth part is that, like I said before, for the first time in a long time, the world, we were all, every single one of us, on the same playing field. And we were all doing the exact same thing in the same battle together. And it was a different time.
Yeah. I totally I love that. And I was thinking about it and thought to myself, I also believe it was the way you posted about it, the way, like the attitude you had. One, it was the realness that you talked about. You were very candid and very honest about it. Because I remember following the journey as well. I was one of those that was like,
Oh,
what's going to happen, and watching and hearing your story live and watching it unfold. But also, it wasn't only your honesty, it was like your positivity through it all, like there was this underlying like hope always. And you even said that, your doctor that was working with you was
yeah.
like, I'm normally not this positive, because you were like, you were my happy doctor, and he's like, I'm normally not the happy doctor, I'm the usually the honest one. But he said you set the tone, you were the positive one. And the fact that you set the tone for the entire experience, everywhere from the hospital room and the staff that worked with you, but also kind of setting this tone for the world to watch and say, I can go through hard things and I can still find like hope and faith and ask for prayers and not shut off from everything, but reach out instead. So I just thought it was really beautiful and such a testament to like the power that we all have, even when we may feel powerless.
Oh, well, thank you, Lindsay. That's very sweet and kind of you to say.
Absolutely. And I guess my next question for you is, I feel like you've been able to, like, you have a book out, you're on the talk, you have your fitness stuff. What is your best advice to other people about moving moving past, like not moving on, but like moving past loss and being able to like thrive in the new life that you are now facing?
Mhm. I mean, I honestly think that my best advice is to just think about what that person you lost would want for you for your life.
Mm-hmm.
I truly do believe that Nick is my guardian angel, that he's our guardian angel, and that he's kind of leading us through everything. I've always been a hustler since the day I can remember. I love to hustle, and I love to work, and I love to create. That's always been a part of my life. And I just think that, in losing Nick, like I said before, realized that the best way to honor him is to keep thriving and to keep working and to keep creating and keep trying and keep providing for
Mm-hmm.
Elvis and myself. And um, so that's the way that I can. Um, and I feel very, in a weird way, like I feel kind of like split personality. Like a lot of my life is very sad and lonely,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other half of my life, I've never felt more proud of myself and more proud of what I have and what I own and what I've created. So it's a weird juxtaposition of like, of, you know, where you are in life, but it's, you know, kind of like where I'm at the moment with it all.
Yeah, that's a really honest, you know, that's a really honest statement that even though like you can feel so fulfilled in one way, it's crazy when you realize, but yet I'm still very lonely. Like I'm still missing something. You know, and that's a very honest thing to like admit to yourself too, and that for this time in your life, like that's an okay place to be. And I think that's what sometimes I get so like frustrated with myself, even like, oh, I should, you know, I shouldn't be here, I should be in a better place, or
Mm.
I should be grateful, and if I was grateful I wouldn't, you know. But it's like owning that that's where I'm at, and that is
Yeah.
okay. And it's like you're still going through the process. And I am curious, have you like guilt sometimes is such a, you know, it doesn't make any sense half the time, but it's part of the grieving process is these feelings of guilt. And how have you had to deal with that? And if so, what is the best way that you've been able to navigate through that?
Um, you know, it's I don't know if I've felt the guilt is hard. I mean, I sometimes feel guilty about not uh thinking that this was COVID when Nick started to just was, you know, when in the beginning when he was super tired,
Mm,
you know, and not having any other symptoms. And I'll start to feel guilty about that. Like, gosh, I should have known something at that point in time. I should have, right? And we can go
right.
down that should have spiral, black hole, till the day we die, you know. I mean, there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of should haves, but in the reality of it, I get myself out of that by telling myself, you know, I, that's what, it's not what life was at that moment, you know, like that, you know,
Yeah.
guilt, it does you no good to go back and feel guilty about something that you have no control over changing. And the reality is even if, and we did take Nick to the urgent care, um, they sent him home. They didn't even give
Yeah.
him a COVID test because he had no COVID symptoms. He hadn't been around anyone with COVID. So I can go back and feel guilty about certain things, but it does me no good, you know. I would say more than guilt, and every grief journey is different and every loss is different. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
this is just mine. For me recently, it's just been more anger than
Yeah.
guilt, like the anger of losing him, how I lost him, that he's not around anymore, that I have to start over, that I have to think about, you know, if I want to find somebody else again, putting myself out there and dating, and I shouldn't have to do that. I had my person.
Yeah.
I had a husband. I had
Mm-hmm.
I had that. I don't want to, you know, like, so you know, you get angry about certain things, or like Elvis, and you're like, I get angry that he doesn't have his dad, and that I never got to see Nick really be a dad because he got sick when Elvis was 10 months old. That's not even like, you know, now Elvis is like a little man, and like I'd get to see what Nick would be like as a father. Like I don't get to see that. And that makes you mad, you know, that gets you
Yeah.
angry. So it's more those feelings than guilt for me personally.
Yeah. And what is it that helps you deal with that? Like that's heavy stuff. It's like the loss of a future.
Boxing class, Lindsay. I go to boxing class and I punch it out. And I'm not kidding you. It really
Oh,
has helped me a lot. Yeah, I'm not
I
kidding.
bet.
Yeah.
Well, okay,
I
next
just
time I have a surge, I'm gonna call up a boxing
yeah,
class. That sounds
it's
amazing.
anger management. It's anger
Yes,
management. And listen, there's no way to get around it, right? Like feelings are feelings are feelings. You can't deny
absolutely.
them. You can't be upset that you have them. You have to acknowledge them and acknowledge their existence. And even if you know, I believe this in a fight too. Like if you're fighting with a friend or a loved one, it's like, and they're telling you you hurt their feelings. You obviously did. Their feelings are theirs, you know, so you have to acknowledge it, and then you have to somehow feel how to deal with it. So for me is like, this sucks. I'm angry about it. All right, how do I take care of it? I'm gonna go move my body because I know working out makes me feel better, and then I'm gonna punch something.
Yeah. Hey, I like your way. We could be friends. And I'm curious, is it ever hard for you to like get yourself up when you're in that moment of feeling down or hopeless or angry? Is it like natural for you to be like, and we're gonna go to the gym? Or is it hard for you to like pull yourself up off the couch?
I would say it's a lot easier than hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that the end result is feeling better. So I would say it's never too hard for me to say, okay, Amanda, like get up, move your body, because I know that at the end of that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever it is, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to be in a completely different mental place,
Yeah.
mental, physically, emotional, better place. So that is usually not hard for me. I will
Mm-hmm.
say it's not easy. I would say it's like 70-30 though. It's like I
Yeah.
can get myself off the couch 70% of the time because I know I'm going to make myself feel better if I do.
Yeah. And, I think that a lot of people struggle with that motivation. And I love that you said focusing on the result. First of all, it's like focus on how it's going to make you feel, not how it feels to do it. But then also you said 5-10 minutes. Like sometimes we all get really bogged down with the idea of like, well, I got to go do something big and I have to work out for an hour to do this. It's like, no, just sometimes the thought of like, anyone can do anything for 5 minutes, like breaking it down to something very doable. Well, I have one last question for you before we kind of wrap this up, but you mentioned like putting yourself out there again and, dating again possibly. And is that something that's on the horizon for you, or how are you approaching that?
Yeah, I actually I've gone on a few dates with other widowers, which has been wonderful in a emotional, just connecting with another adult. I try not to call them dates because that puts so much pressure on it. It was
Yeah.
actually Katie Couric that told me, don't call it a date, call it adult. Oh gosh, what did she call it? Adult connection. She said, you're just going on an adult connection. And I was like, I like that. Okay, I can
Nice.
reframe it so that it doesn't put this pressure or sadness or stress on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say the greatest gift in going on a few of these dates, because I've only gone on a few and they aren't even, really, there's nothing romantic about it. We're two widowers and widowers. So we're basically chatting about our sadness and our loss and our, feelings about everything. So there's nothing
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah.
it's nothing romantic, but it still is helpful and in moving forward. And but I will say the best part about it is that I've realized in these couple of dates that I've gone on that I'm okay, that I
Mm-hmm.
am strong, can, that Elvis and I are special, and that we have a very special bond and relationship, and that I don't need anyone in my life. I think that if someone comes to Elvis and I, that only adds to the already awesomeness that we have together, then that's great. But I don't need anyone. And I found it to be such a reassuring, peaceful way to go forward in this process, because it frees me of feeling like I have to find somebody. I'm
Mm-hmm.
39. I want to find a partner again. I want to find love again. I want Elvis to have a father. It gave me this like freedom of like, no, Amanda, I'm okay. And I can provide for myself and I can provide for him. And our bond is so special and wonderful. And I only need to worry about finding somebody if they complement what we already have. And I don't know if I would have come to that conclusion without going on these quote dates. And
Yeah.
I love that that's what I found.
Well, that was so beautiful. And it is really interesting. I think so often we're kind of told what we need and we're told what we think what we should be. And then you have these moments every once in a while where you realize what you actually are. And it's like, and I
Yeah.
just love that realization, like, wow, I'm actually okay.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
better than
okay.
okay. Like,
Yeah.
and so that's so beautiful. And I just want to say one last time, thank you so much, Amanda, for taking the time to chat with me and to share your really beautiful story with so many people all over the world. Um, and everybody, thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned because I'll be doing some more of these and I'll be announcing other guests soon. But one last time, thank you so much, Amanda. Everybody give a
Thank
clap
you.
from wherever you are.
Thank you, Lindsey. You're so lovely, and I really enjoyed chatting with you.
You too. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye-bye.